Welcome to Faith Fondue, a podcast featuring author and educator Haley DeMaria and teacher and blogger Ann Strickers. Faith Fondue features a melting pot of topics ignited by a flame, our faith, and guided by the Holy Spirit. It's the week of April 1st, April Fool's Day. This is Season 4, Episode 7. We just celebrated the holiest day in the Christian faith, the foundation of our religion, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Easter weekend and April Fool's Day. It's an interesting combination. Anne, how are you? And what is hot this week?
It's funny you put in that context, Haley, because I was thinking, Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day were the same day as well. So if Easter had only been April Fool's Day, and we've talked many times about minor holidays, B-list holidays,
Right.
April Fool's Day is a good one, but we can't let it be trumped by the holiest day of the year and this notion of celebration. So happy Easter to everybody. We are
Yes.
Easter people. I don't know what your homily was yesterday, but ours was really a call to live as Easter people. So I think it's a great message. And the priest gave a couple ideas what that means. So it was a good, obviously a great day, but it was a good message to carry with us. What does it mean to be Easter people?
Right. No, I love that. Our homily yesterday was 26 minutes long. And I only know that because,
I know.
right,
Sorry.
right, I know.
Wow.
Well, we're trying out new churches because, as I've mentioned a few times, we downsized, we moved. And so I think we found one that will become our home. But they had a couple different services, and we ended up in the overflow service, which was in the gym of the school at the church where we went. And so unfortunately for the priest, we were facing the clock on the wall of the gym. And so
Wow.
it wasn't that I was trying to time how long it was. It's just, if you were looking at him, you were looking at a clock right above him. So unfortunately, that's the first thing I remember about his homily, but his was really interesting just about resurrection and what that means, and that there are 3 examples of resurrection in the Old Testament and 3 examples of resurrection in the New Testament, and how we are, and that is of course the theme of Easter as well. So it was interesting. It was a different take on an Easter homily. I
Yeah.
hadn't
Okay.
had a priest focus so much on the resurrection. I will say he was really dynamic. He was really interesting to listen to. So he's a
Yeah.
great speaker.
Well,
You'd
no,
have to be a good speaker, I think, to get me to listen
yeah.
for 26
Right.
minutes.
I agree. I applaud that. I mean, that is Easter. Yeah. Without the resurrection, this is a totally different story. So that's wonderful that he connected it too. I'd love to hear more. Not 26 minutes from you or anyone for that matter. We joke about that at graduation. At a baccalaureate, one time a priest did speak for 26 minutes, and one person was like, "Oh, when he started the homily, so and so had hair, as a faculty member that's
Ah,
bald." Like we're still not over it. Like we still joke about it. Catholics traditionally, it's not like our forte, should we say, for stomaching a long homily. Maybe culturally, there's some maybe that are better than others. So
it is
yeah.
what it is.
But the message, you're talking about the message now, so that's a good homily.
That is correct. That is correct. So I am on the end of my spring break. We had our spring break over Holy Week. You are on the beginning of your spring break, so congratulations to you for making it to spring break. It was I had a great week. I spent a lot of time with my family. I spent a lot of time with my parents. It was really nice. It was a nice balance of unstructured time and planned events. We saw a lot of family. Of course, I had both boys home for Easter, which was really nice. But I think I'm ready to go back to work as well and have
Right.
more structured time. I like my
Yeah.
routines. I do well with the routines. I did keep some of those routines over break, but it's always nice to have a job that you're excited to go back to.
Wow, yeah, what a gift. And I like how you mentioned even with family, there's benefits to structured and unstructured time. Both can be just refreshing or enjoyable. So yeah, it's something to kind of think about. How do we structure our days? How do we let them be unstructured? It's almost like a skill to let them be unstructured many times,
Yes.
I think for a lot of people. So yes, I'm not there yet. My break just began. But we do Holy Thursday, Good Friday, which is very traditional in a Catholic school to do that with Easter week. But wanted to share a thought on Palm Sundays, the beginning of Holy Week. A good friend of Eileen and her family, we've gone to some unusual places, like a kind of a mission church in West Marin, which is very rural one year, and they have like a breakfast afterwards. And then this year, a friend told me about a mass at Notre Dame de Victoire, which is in San Francisco, and they have the liturgy in Basque. So the Basque region, is between Spain and France. And I was able to go there when I went on my pilgrimage because Ignatius of Loyola was Basque. And if you know anyone that's Basque, they're very proud of their heritage. It's a very proud people, very small, population wise. But the liturgy it started with like a not like an avant-garde, but these drummers and horns, male core of them, in these beautiful outfits, white with red scarves and berets. And then in the Basque country, they don't have palms, so they give a laurel, and everybody had these laurel branches. And then the whole mass was in Basque. And there's only one word in the Spanish language that comes from Basque. It's izquierda, which is like Spanish for left. And the spelling of it, if you look at the spelling of izquierda as izquierda, it is very unusual. The Basque language is totally unrelated to other Romance languages, a lot of Z's, a lot of K's. So really just a wonderful kind of way to participate in Palm Sunday. And it was very multi-generational. Like a lot of these, like there was two sisters that were in their 90s and a lot of grandparents with their grandkids, but even great grandparents. And I really like looked at this community and I thought, one of the gifts you just cannot buy is culture. The gift of culture. It is so rich to grow up in a family that has either a strong sense of their ethnic heritage, or maybe it's a religious culture or whatever it is, but it's just really one of the beautiful gifts in life. So kind of set the tone for a very meaningful week because, the days of Holy Week each have a name, or many of them do. It's Spy Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday. So for Christians, there's a very rich culture of Holy Week that I think is a gift to all of those who practice and celebrate.
So one of the things, I'm new to the Jesuits. I know you've been teaching at a Jesuit school for a long time, but my son just started at Xavier a couple of years ago in Cincinnati. So this is my first experience with the Jesuit education. And so we're learning more about St. Ignatius. And there is a building on Xavier's campus that is a replica of Castle Loyola where he was born. So I'm assuming that must be in the Basque country. Yes. Okay. Yep. So I would love to go visit that at some point.
Yes, it is very beautiful. Very mountainous, hilly, like just very green, very lush. Yeah. It's so fascinating. Like sometimes these small groups of people, just the mark that they can make, so something worth celebrating and learning more about.
Well, and even as we get to our takeaway is what a great message for us to remember as well. You're right, these small regions, small groups of people can do great things and clearly have left an impact on the world for centuries, but we can do that too. We can be that small person that does great things as well. So we can talk about that later. What else do you have planned for spring break this week?
Well, let's see. So, my official break began with Holy Thursday, and it was Bruce Springsteen. It was on tour. So I'm sure I've talked about him many times, but he just does not disappoint. And I know everybody says it, but they say it because it's true. Just live music, any chance you get to participate in live music, it is just also it's such a gift. This gift is not free. This gift,
right?
The ticket prices on these shows are not inexpensive.
Correct.
But worth every penny. He calls himself the hardest working man in showbiz. Well, he is at 74. So I enjoyed that. And then I'm here for a couple of days and then heading to see some friends in San Diego. So a small getaway.
Excellent. And probably watching a lot of basketball.
Yes. So how have your brackets been doing? Talk to me.
Busted, busted, busted. And I feel like I watch a lot of college basketball, with my son having been a basketball manager at Notre Dame. And then, of course, my other son at Xavier is a huge Big East team. So we watch college basketball all season. We are not fans that just pay attention during the tournaments or March Madness. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the teams. And I think that's why it's called Madness, is because anything can happen. And my godson goes to NC State, North Carolina State.
Wow. Okay.
So that's exciting. They're sort of the Cinderella story of this tournament. We watched the ACC tournament,
Absolutely.
and what a crazy semifinal game they had against Virginia, which they needed to make. They needed to win the ACC tournament to make the
Yeah.
big dance. And they were 5 seconds from losing. They were down by
Yeah.
three and threw up a Hail Mary and tied it. Anyway, that's been fun to watch. It's
Yeah.
always fun to watch. And the Notre
Yes.
Dame women made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I was disappointed they lost, of course, because I always want them to win it all every year. But I also feel like they did really well for the team they had. Of course, they have
Yes.
some really
Yep.
strong players, but they also have some injured players and
Yeah.
weren't playing at full strength. So really proud of how well they fought and did great to even make it to the Sweet 16. So it's always fun to
Yeah.
watch. It's a great connector. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of family text messages going around. We have a bracket at work. It's been a fun thing that we've
Yeah.
done with work colleagues. So I think
Sure.
it's a great connector.
It is. Yeah. We at school had a men's and a women's bracket for our betting. I did not do a men's bracket this year, actually.
Good
I only
for
did a women's.
you.
Yeah. So part of it was just I was like overwhelmed because with the transfer portal, just so many teams can be in the mix. So these outliers, yeah. Even though what two of the four are the number one seeds for the men, but for the women, with Caitlin Clark, who plays right now against LSU, so Iowa versus LSU, that rematch so early, I know. So I'd like to check out that game, and I too was disappointed in Notre Dame, but I heard Coach Ivy talk about just this team and what it meant. So proud of them, and always proud of what can be, and we look to the future. So bracket wise, I guess I'm cheering for South Carolina because that's who I picked, but I would imagine many people have. So we'll see.
Right, right. We'll see. That's why they play.
You got it.
So, for my gospel this week in our spiritual stew, I was looking and actually listening to today's gospel, and of course, heard yesterday's gospel before the 26-minute homily. And yesterday's, of course, is the story of the empty tomb. We hear it every year. It's always a powerful one. But today's gospel really jumped out at me also, and I think I've mentioned this before because it has a phrase in it that we hear a lot, and I think about it every time I hear it. And I probably should think about it more than that, which we do when we certainly sing the songs that these words are in. But the disciples run into Jesus as they post resurrection, and he says to them, "Do not be afraid." And I think about that because how could they not be afraid? They've just witnessed someone come back alive from the dead. So if we think
Mhm.
about someone in our life who has passed, who we have watched them die and buried them, how
Yeah.
could we not be afraid? and
Yeah.
and yet they weren't. So just the literal meaning of that in the context of when Jesus is saying those words is really powerful when you think about it. But I also think it's so much more than just the words he's saying in the moment to the disciples. He is telling us, do not be afraid. And life is hard, and there is a lot to be fearful of in our world right now. And so those words stuck out to me for other reasons as well, whether
Mhm.
it's the fear of an illness or the fear of the unknown or the fear of uncertainty with a job or family. There is a lot of most of our lives are unsettled. Very rarely do we go through life with everything being going well at the same time, there's always a part of our lives that can be unsettled. And to go through it without fear is, I think, what Jesus is telling us every day. So those words just really stuck out to me this week. And
Yeah.
so I need to think about why they did.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, you spoke so thoroughly and thoughtfully to like the reality of why we are afraid. Yeah, there is so much that's unsettled, that's unknown. But then I think about when we live with faith, and if these are like primary source, these are Jesus's words.
Mm-hmm.
So, what a great message to hold on to, that he said that. And those were the first words of John Paul II when he became Pope. That was the very first thing that he said. And I'm pretty sure it's one of the most common messages Jesus offers
Mm-hmm.
in the Gospels. So, just to, yeah, hold on to those words, like you said, and really sit with them and apply them. I was at a funeral today. A former student. He wasn't my student,
Mm.
but his sister was, and she's one of my golfers. And her brother was 29 and had a brain tumor, and just was. The funeral was at the church where he was baptized, where his grandfather was baptized, where he
Mm.
received his first communion. And I hope for them they felt just some comfort, by the community, but also by their faith, because to lose someone is just, it is such a tragedy. And yet I think of people, I don't know why we were talking about it recently, but is it near death, NDEs, near death experiences? We were talking about them at lunch. Anyone who's had a near death experience and they've been to the quote unquote other side, they're never afraid to die
No,
after that.
true,
Yeah. I mean,
true.
studies show they're always like, the fear is gone, which is tremendous if we really think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends who's a sister went on a retreat, and she said, I don't fear death because of my love of Christ. And I was like, wow. I mean, she's bearing witness to her belief. And I'm not there, but I really take comfort because I hear her conviction. So
And I also think it's just a message, it's a great reminder of the message for the way we need to live so that we don't get caught up in worry and fear, but to just trust. And you're right, that is exactly where our faith comes in, and to trust that whatever we have to face, the challenges, we can't be fearful of challenges coming towards us because we know they will, but to trust that we'll have the faith and the strength and the grace to get through them, I think is what he's saying to us as well.
yeah. And if we don't, maybe those around us will, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, you said the word worry, and I think, yes, that's just it's a truth. Like Mother Teresa said, if you pray, don't worry. If you worry, don't pray. Her point being like, yeah, give it over. But yes, thanks, Mother Teresa. Okay, okay.
Yes.
My reading was from Friday. So I went to services at 1:45 at St. Dominic's on Good Friday. It's always a hard one that day. Um, and with my colleagues, we've been talking a lot about Judas and the importance of the role that he plays in the entire passion, death of Jesus and his life. So I went back to that reading from Friday and just was kind of scanning some of the information about Judas. But really, what stuck out to me is echoed in what we heard on Sunday. So, they take down the body and they put it, it says 100 pounds of myrrh and aloe. So they dress the body because it would have smelled, right? And then the burial cloth. And then, the Sabbath for a Jew is Friday at sundown. So they needed to do this before, right? So Jesus dies 12 to 3 to get the body in this resting place. And I was just thinking about all the running around, and then he's in this new tomb. And again, sort of like you really kind of trying to go into the gospel reading to say, wow, this scene, there's a lot going on. There's the death, there's the crucifixion. The soldiers don't need to break his legs. He's already dead. We're going to take the body down. We're going to dress the body. It has to be there because of the Sabbath. So we can't put it in this one place. We'll put it in this new tomb. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of details. We just wake up
Right.
with Easter and he's risen, but there's a lot of different parts that speak to the significance of his death, the tragedy of his death, the utter tragedy of it. And then yet we are on this other side. So sometimes for me, and I'll speak about this in our takeaways, Haley, it's hard for me just to go from like death to boom, like we're Easter people. It's like, whoa, I'm
I'm still
still,
mourning. I'm
yeah.
still
And maybe
feeling
that's
the
what
loss.
those disciples in the upper room, they're like, yeah, I'm afraid because I don't want to go through this again. I can't do this. So
Right.
yeah, for me, it's something I kind of need to work through.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but I do appreciate what you're saying, and I think you probably said it more articulately than I did. But when you really listen to the stories of what took place, they say 3 days. It's not really 3 days. I feel like it's not even 48 hours, but that's
Right,
okay.
right. Yeah.
So it is quick when you say that, going from this deep mourning to celebrating the resurrection. But when you really think about what is taking place there at that moment, at the time that it happened, it does become a little overwhelming, as opposed
Yeah.
to just how we read it now and just move on and take the message.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a lot to think about. And perhaps we need more than 3 days to think about it, which is probably why we move into I'm going to get this wrong, the octave of Easter. Is that
Oh,
correct?
I, I don't, I think so. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I'm going to
And
look that up. That'll be part of my
we know we
takeaway.
have it at Christmas, but yeah, the Easter tide, the 50 days, but
Yes.
there's probably an octave in there. Yeah. That's one of your
And that
takeaways.
is one of
Yeah.
my takeaways. I will
Yeah.
look into the Easter season. But yes, we've got a lot to think about over these next several weeks.
Okay. Well, one of my takeaways, and I'm putting this out there, it's related to what I just said. I don't know about this, but part of me, and this is like the coach and the athlete and the teacher, I feel like I need a post-Lent evaluation. So anytime you run a program, you're supposed to do an evaluation. This has been drilled into me. Teachers are supposed to evaluate the core, have students evaluate the course, students evaluate athletes evaluate the season. But I kind of personally want to evaluate my Lent. And I found a couple of questions. It says, did you share your Lenten journey with anyone? If you did, make plans to have a conversation with like how things went. Um, Maybe you started Lent with an idea of the path that you were hoping to take this Easter, but it's likely the path changed. In what ways describe your path and what changed this Lent? So just some like kind of like reflective guiding questions. Again, I need to come out of this Lent. So maybe that's just for me, but it might resonate with some of our listeners. I don't know if that's something that people would do, or maybe they're just ready to move on, you
No,
know?
no, I actually like that. And I love that there's actually a structure for it and that someone put that out there. But you're right. There's always the benefit of reflection. When you said, did you finish the way we started off? I keep thinking about the 4 or 5 things that I'll give up for Lent,
Yes,
and
you're
then
right. Mhm.
maybe then it's only one by the end because I couldn't
Yep.
do all 4, but I'll start with 4 so that I at least get one done. That's a little bit of a pivot. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that would certainly be something to reflect on. But I like that. I think if maybe we could post that and share that to really reflect on not necessarily so much how we did, but
Yeah.
but why, but how we did it. Not evaluating did we do it well or not, but how did
Yeah.
we actually go about it? And
Yeah.
what if anything changed, and in what way did we grow?
Yeah.
Because that's really, I believe, the purpose of Lent, and even the purpose of quote unquote giving something up, which I'm not sure that's the right thing to do anyway. I think we're supposed to turn something over or do something that's going to
Yeah.
make us a better person, or be
Yep.
more Christ like. And
Yep.
are we, if we're supposed to either do acts of service or give something up so that we can be more like Christ, we should, if we did it right, be more like Christ when we get to Easter weekend. And are we? That would be a great thing
Yeah.
for us to really think about.
Yeah. No, that's probably the question. Yeah.
over
So,
our Easter octave or Easter season or whatever it is I am going to learn
right. Yeah.
before we meet again.
I
Where are
got
we
you.
now in
Yeah.
the life of the church
Right.
season?
Well, some people might hesitate, like when are we more like Christ? It's like, oh, can I really answer that? But yeah, are we more Christ-like? Or is there a softening of your heart? Or yeah, where's the growth? Are you closer to God?
Right.
Right? There's so many ways to phrase it. Yeah, because things do, I do feel whether it's just the meat on Fridays or just the season, I don't mean this as negative as it's coming off. Like it's a weight. Like Lent to me is a weight. And it's like Easter, it's like the weight, the gray, the purple, it's white, it's gold. Like I need those symbolic colors because it is a different season. Like that stuff, it it bears something I bear. So I don't know.
But Anne, I think that's why the church does it.
Yeah,
Because we are sensory people. That I think that's part of being human. So we
yeah,
need the symbols and the routines and the colors and the scents, the
yeah,
smells, scents.
yeah,
That is all part of at least who we are as Catholic Christians. I mean, I think that's so much a
yeah,
part of the Catholic faith. Even when you were speaking about the service that you went to last week, where it was not in English, that is one of the things that I love about our faith. Is Catholic Mass is the same everywhere in the world, and for some people that is might not be a positive. They may think that's negative. Oh, it's all the same everywhere. I love that because I can walk into a church anywhere in the country in any language and I can generally follow the service and what is going on. And that
yeah,
is a huge comfort, which I think ultimately is what our faith is a comfort to us.
yeah,
And so I all of those symbols and colors and smells, scents and reflections are exactly what give us our faith.
yeah. Well, and that comes back to that idea of the culture. I mean, those are the ways, like, how do you measure culture? How do you understand culture? I mean, right, whether it's ethnic culture, for Ireland, it would be, the color green. For the Basque country, it's this the red with this symbol that they use on all of their, yeah, it's just like, it's not even like a four-leaf clover, but it's a very distinct symbol. So, yeah, it's all part of it. So it helps us to make sense of, a spiritual reality.
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
a spiritual gift. So
It is. And I think that's something else we can work on in our takeaway is where do we see those symbols not during Lent because they are very present
true.
during Lent.
Yeah.
And there are
Mhm.
the reminders of it's Friday, we can't eat meat. And then all of that goes away. So how do we continue with our faith and awareness
Yeah.
without moving into this next church season
Yeah.
while we're
So,
watching basketball games?
exactly. So we have how many? Well, next weekend, right?
Next weekend is the Final Four. And then I believe you're going to be proud of me. The Masters are the weekend after that.
Yes, it sure is. Way to go. Yeah. Can't wait. Already looking ahead. It seemed like things were a little bit like
Backwards.
last year we had March Madness on St. Patrick's Day, and then yeah, like maybe the first day or something. Yeah. And then maybe, yeah, the Masters just seem to overlap. So it seems like I like that it's all coming together. We have baseball is back. I saw were you at opening day
We were
or
not at opening day. We were at the opening weekend. We went to the second game of the
okay.
season, but it was,
That's
we are,
awesome.
it's, yes, baseball season is back. We
Yeah.
have high hopes for the Orioles this year.
New ownership,
New
right?
that was
Yeah.
celebrated in Baltimore.
Oh,
Absolutely.
good. Yes. Oh, wow. And we didn't even talk about the
I
bridge.
just thought about that.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
That
Yes. Was that a
was
bridge take?
I've only been on a handful of times. It is a bridge that goes, many cities have beltways that go around the city. And so
Yeah.
it's one of the bridges that goes around the city. So I've been on it a few times, but it's certainly not one I frequent. It is one that many people frequent.
Mm.
and it is a symbol. Of course, it's the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yeah.
Francis Scott Key is and the Star Spangled Banner, just a huge, huge, huge point of pride for Baltimore.
Wow.
And that was a shock. It's still a shock, actually,
Yes.
as
Yes.
we continue to unfold and learn more about what happened and who was affected, and it will affect the city of Baltimore for years.
Mm.
So we
Uh,
certainly will continue to
yeah.
talk about that, and certainly keep everyone who was affected in our
Yes.
prayers during this time as well. But yeah,
Right.
that was a hard one.
Yeah. It was hard to even watch because it was just, it seemed so, you couldn't believe it when like the first time you see it. And it's like, what?
Right. It
Yes.
just
So,
went down. Just
yeah.
it looked
Yeah.
almost, I don't want to say fake. I don't mean that at
Yeah.
all. I
No.
don't. But it looked like it wasn't that sturdy.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, but it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, hard time in Baltimore. And
Yeah.
but there's Baltimore is a tough city, and a city filled with a lot of pride,
Yeah.
and the Orioles certainly celebrate all of that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we were there, the police divers were honored at
Oh.
the game we were at. So
Oh, wow.
really an emotional start to that game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, yeah, baseball does a great job at that, honoring people in our community.
they
It's
do.
just it's a good place for it. So
There
I'm
is
glad
a
to hear that.
reason it is America's sport for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Well, enjoy
Thank you.
and yeah, enjoy this Easter octave / Easter tide.
Enjoy your spring break. I look
Yes,
forward to
thank you.
connecting and hearing how you've just taken time for
Yeah.
yourself. I hope to refresh
Yeah.
and renew.
For the final push. Right.
Absolutely. And I will get back to you on what the Easter season is. And the
Okay.
other question I have, real quick before we close, is, and you may know this, but don't answer, we'll save it for next time because I do want to look it up, is I know Passover is not for another 3 weeks, and yet Passover is the dinner that was celebrated at the Last
Right.
Supper. So I kind of always thought they went together,
They're
but
supposed to.
they don't.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Passover is not till, I think I said around April 20th. So I'm gonna read into that and figure out why it's
Yeah.
not as
It has to
connected
do
as
with
I
their
feel like it
calendar.
should be.
It's their calendar and ours. They have a different calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, but more than that.
So
So,
I'm going to look into that too. But Anne, I hope
okay.
you have a
I
great
like it.
spring break, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to connecting in a couple weeks.
Great. Thanks, Haley.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.